We should understand what meditation is before we get into it. Meditation is not solving problems, trying to contact people through a third eye vision or any type of illusionary experience, whether it be past, present, or future. It's not daydreaming. It's not speaking in a prayer-like manner. Now, all of these things have their place. There is a place for them, but when you meditate, you should put these things aside. Now, when you want to do some of these other mental, what I call mental work, do it wisely and not stupidly and get yourself in a lot of trouble in the mental world. I find that it's far best to do these things, if you want to do any of these things, after you have meditated. Now, the reason that I say that is because if you'll meditate properly, as we're going to explain, you clean up the aura and the force field of consciousness that belongs to your particular ego and personality. And if you start doing some of these things before you clean up, if you happen to be someone who can read auras or do some of these illusionary type things, you'll read through your aura and you'll confuse what you're doing, because your aura is completely full of images of your own personal thought patterns, your fears, your worries, your hopes, your anxieties. It's all there. Now, to meditate is to be still, to enter a peaceful state, to focus the mind on something. Doesn't matter what it is, but you must learn to focus the mind so that it can enter into a one-point movement. Master Jesus said it in a little different way. He said, if thy eye be single, you shall be full of light. He's talking about the mental eye, not the physical eyes, but the mental eye, when it is focused on one thing. And all your thoughts, all your hang-ups, all your fears, guilt, all this stuff goes by the wayside. You enter into what is called contemplation. And to contemplate is to become one with that which you have focused on. And this is why you have heard or read about many different types of teachings doing many different things. The Turkish whirling dervish, they will stand and spin around tremendously fast. And when they have spun all their thought patterns out of their aura, they generally will fall to the ground and go into what we call a deep state of meditation. Other people will say, well, they hallucinate. Well, if they want to hallucinate, they will spin real hard, and they will take their consciousness to their knees. And they will spin out through the centers of the knees, which is a spinning vortex, and they go into the plane to see the future. And they're very good at it. Exceptionally good. When Lowell Thomas went to the Hunza area, he went to the whirling dervish and asked him which pathway he should go, because it's a very dangerous trip going into the mountains, because they go on real narrow pathways. And he donated a reasonable amount, and they whirled for him. And when they came out of their state of consciousness, they told him not to go this way, but to go this way, because on this way, about the time that he would reach it, there was going to be a land avalanche that would fall, and they would get caught in it. And sure enough, it's exactly what happened. So, when we understand a lot about the different techniques that people use on the planet, we don't say, well, look at them stupid idiots spinning. We say they're very wise people. They learn how to use the energies of mind in a controlled way. The Buddhists, they like to concentrate on breathing. Before you can do anything in the knowledge of the divine consciousness, you have got to cut off the sensuous mind. The sensuous mind comes to you through the five senses. Everything you do, you perceive through feeling, seeing, hearing, touching. All of these senses is the way you think. You react, you desire, you fear, you love. You find happiness and misery through your five senses. These have to be turned off. Otherwise, you externalize. Many of the great yogi teachers how to gaze. They'll have all kind of different types of mandanas. Or they'll take a candle with a light on it. And they'll sit and look at these mandanas, which are different types of drawings which cause the mind to focus to a center, to one point. The spinning circle that they use to hypnotize people with in this country. Things of that nature. They will concentrate on this until the mind turns off, and then they turn their eyes and concentration inside. They'll see this same mandana inside, and they will go through it, and they go on the other side of the sense mind. To contemplate a phrase in Tibet, one of the great ones the world has learned about from Tibetan monasteries. Om Mani Padme Hum. Oh, my God within me. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Over and over and over until the mind turns off. And this is a call to the God within you. And if you'll do it like they do it for about, most of the beginners will have to do this for about 3 to 4 days. If you fall over and go to sleep, the minute you wake up, you start in again. Some will teach you to sit and think of nothing. This is impossible. Because when you're thinking of nothing, you're thinking about something. That's nothing. So it's impossible to think about it. And we'll show you that in a few minutes. Some say you have to let your hair grow long because these are antennas that pick up the radiation of the divine flow, which Jesus called the bread of life. I call it the life flow. Mao Tzu called it the Tao. Guru Nanak called it the Holy Nam. All different religions call it by different names, but we all get it because you can't live without it. We can learn to listen to this, and our particular universe is on middle C. And if you learn how to chant, the easiest way I know is Hum. If you just chant this over and over and over. Now, I hope you understand that the idea of meditation is to control your mind. Biofeedback has come into our play to help us learn how to relax. If you can't relax, you can't meditate. So the first thing we have to do is try to help you learn to relax the body. Most people think they relax, but they don't. They just sit in their muscles and their body, and their mind is always active. You have to turn this thing off. Like Jesus said, go into thy closet and be still. The closet is the mind, inside. This is what he's talking about. One of the greatest teachings, if you understand it, that has ever been given to the world was given by Master Jesus. And the reason it was given was because we're in the 5th level of learning. We are now into a new day. And there are going to be a lot of new thoughts come forward. 50, 100 years from now, the things I speak about will be almost commonplace. People will really be hungry, moving into it. The multitudes will. We're opening up a new state of consciousness. There'll be another great teacher come upon the planet who will teach many of the things that this simple little forerunner is trying to get across. Multitudes are not ready for me yet. A few whose minds are ready to listen, who are open, who are the head of the parade, they will listen to me. You have to pay attention because we ask you to go through 11 card systems that we have devised. These 11 cards are a self-psychoanalysis of how you're living. Now, you can go pay a psychiatrist several $100s if you want to. But this simple card system is to get you to watch yourself as you perform each day. You are a creature of habits. And every one of us has habits that you don't realize you have. And the only way you can know the divine essence of where you came from and what you're doing here and where you're going when you leave this body is to focus the mind and move through your own fixed aura and world of imagery. And if you don't do this, you can't know. Jesus said, know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Free from what? And what is the truth? The truth is that you are a creator, and you create the life you live by your thinking. And if you happen to be thinking in a opposite way to the divine order, then you will find yourself not in harmony with this great thing that flows through us from the God Self. We'll find ourselves offensive to it. We'll find ourselves wanting to search out a minister, priest, guru, which means teacher, holy man, or whatever, who will do it for us. I assure you that whatever is done in this life, you'll have to do it. And the only way you're ever going to know is by living the life. You can read your books. You can travel like I've told you here, several people have. But until you're ready to face yourself and know the truth about yourself, and the truth is to know that you set up your own concepts, and this light around you is filled with all kind of images that your mind has placed there through your environment in which you have grown in. And it is like an enclosed area in which you live. It makes you opinionated, makes you prejudiced. It makes you hate, it makes you fear, it makes you feel guilty, it makes you worry. Now you clear this out, and just like Jesus said, you'll be free. You'll be free from your own mental hang-ups. In my opinion, there's no such thing as guilt. In my opinion, there's no such thing as sin, as the word is ordinarily used. We are a divine instrument. We have come to this planet to go to school, to learn about the laws of creation. Some will learn ahead of time, some will be in the middle of the parade, and some will drag behind, and some will be dropped off. This is the law. God doesn't have a thing to do with it. Each of you have to do with your own way you live. This is why you hear me say over and over and over again, develop a good moral state of performance. Really get with it. And when you go out and work for somebody, you put in a full good day. Don't try to cheat. Don't loaf. If you don't like the job and you can't work at that job with a good, honest behavior, get out of that job and find one you can. Because when you get mad and you cheat on the job, you're not hurting the man. You're not hurting the man who's running the business. You're hurting yourself. You're destroying the opportunity that you were birthed on this planet for. Develop the capacity to get things done in a creative way. You're robbing yourself. So when you try to cheat to gain something, you're losing the growth of the soul pattern. Because they tell us that he who overcomes becomes a pillar of power in my kingdom. And if you don't learn to overcome your bad habits, if you don't learn to overcome weaknesses and stabilize your strengths, you'll find out when you die that you made a hell of a mess out of this lifetime. Now, in meditation, you must understand yourself. Naturally, in an hour, it's impossible for me to tell you about thousands of years. It's just impossible. So we're going to hit the highlights. You have in your body which is called energy flows. One is positive and one is negative. Now, negative does not mean the ordinary state that we hear so much about. Negative means receptivity, the ability to receive knowledge, the ability to be receptive to the flow. These two energies flow. They cross at what we call the sacred centers, or John in the Bible calls them seals. The East calls them chakras. The Bible also refers to them as apples in the tree of Garden of Eden. Now, I can't go through the whole garden and tell you what it means, But I can assure you that in time, if you'll listen to me, you'll have this experience yourself, and you'll know the truth about the Garden of Eden. But these two forces are serpentine forces. They call them serpentine forces because they intertwine. They cross at different points in our etheric body, which is mind centers. Now, when you understand the mind centers, which I can't get into this morning because there's a whole about 2-hour lecture on it, but just to say so that you have an idea what I'm talking about, your first one is procreation. What is the first law in the Bible? Replenish the species. This is why procreation center is so strong. And at every new day, when man enters into a new performance, this becomes very active, and this is why we got all the problems we've had in the last 10 years. Look what happened in Greece. They had a beautiful state of consciousness, magnificent gods from Mount Olympus. If anybody knows anything about it, you know that they were not telling, it isn't just a fable, it was true. It was really a beautiful, beautiful time. They brought slaves in, and this started to be activated because of a new state of consciousness, and Greece went down the hill. Rome did the same thing. America is in this mess right now. And I'm trying to do my best to get you to stay off of your dope, stay off of too much sex. I'm not saying quit it. I'm saying don't be so crazy with it. Because a little later I'll tell you why. Now, this has to do with the power of the animal, the life power center. This has to do with your emotions. This has to do with your intellect. This is Master Jesus' entry. This is where he resides. This is where his whole record is. This is the master manpower. And this is what Master Jesus wanted to tell you. You must take yourself in hand. You must be the controller of your thoughts and the life you live. And that, what he taught, was the highest of moral performance. Don't steal. Don't cheat. Don't do these things. There's 3 things you're going to have to learn if you continue the path of truth. First is to be honest. If you can't just sit down and say, by God, I don't know. I just don't know. If you're kidding yourself, thinking that you know when you don't know, you're not honest. This is why we start you on a basic movement first, through the cards, to establish an honest relationship with yourself. Second is courage. When everybody else is calling you a nut or a way out, crazy, lost, the devil's got you, and all this kind of business, it takes courage. Because, boy, I've been there. It takes courage to continue. I want to know the truth. And I want to know it from my own consciousness and not out of some man's mouth or some book. I want to know, I know, and I want to be able to use what I know to live a better and more advanced state of consciousness while I'm here on the planet. And when I leave the planet, I won't have to go through heaven and hell states. I'll go right on through into the bliss state of joy. Adaptability, excuse me. Adaptability is the third one. You have to learn to adapt and change. Adapt and change. All of us hate change. Nobody likes to change their way of performing. Nobody. I tell you, every time you go to work, find a new way. Change it. If you've been used to putting on your pants one way, put them on a different way. Develop an adaptability of consciousness. This way, when the time comes from you to move out of your own energy field, of your own thought aura, you can adapt, and you can see these things scoot out of you. This is why, if you really follow the path along, you'll find thoughts coming into your mind that you had years ago. And you'll come up and say, what's happened to me? I'm sliding backwards. No, you're not. You're cleaning out the junk. You're getting rid of it. You're getting clean. What does a person do when they die? The first thing they do, they start remembering their early days. They'll start talking about when they were a kid or when the early days when they were married. I've done this, and I've watched them die. But I'm not going to talk about death this morning. This one has to do with intuition. I can't get into all that, but we will in time. Now, these two forces, the first one is the feminine, or the receptive, and the East will call it Ida. I refer to it as the first degree of consciousness. Jesus referred to it very beautifully. He says, the left hand of God. The left hand is a receptive hand. This is where energy flows through. And if you learn how to use the positive and negative energy through the balance of the hands, you can become a balanced person, and you'll know what Jesus talked about when he said, these things and greater you should do also. The second one is the second degree, or the Pingala, or what we call the positive or masculine control of mind. Ladies are much more receptive than man, because he is a positive charge, and the male body is a positive instrument. It performs in a positive way. And this is what one of the troubles that we're having. The world has started to become balanced. Men are acting like women, and women are acting like men. If they knew why they were doing this, all this troublesome that's going on could be put to an end. Each of us has to become balanced. This is called, this center, right up through the spinal system, the cord in the center of our spine system is called Sushumna by the East in the third degree. I call it the third degree. The reason I call it the third degree because when the two become one, I become the third. That means I become balanced. This is the control system of the positive and negative energy of consciousness. Jesus put it another way. He says, the straight and narrow path is what you must find, but few there'll be that find it. It comes from within you because this is the way you are constructed. Now, as you learn to run your energy through the Sushumna or through the spinal cord, balance the positive and negative energy, there is what is called a flight takes place. This is where the medical part, the conducis, comes from. The wings and the two serpents and the straight and the rod. The rod, of course, is your spinal cord. And wherever this rod stops, that's your growth. If you're an emotional nut, that's where you have grown to. What we want to do is go on beyond the physical form. Get into these levels of consciousness up here until we reach the illumined consciousness. The illumined consciousness is called by many people the Godhead. Jesus called it the Father. It don't make any difference what you call it. The important thing is to learn to find it. That's what's important. Now, in your head, there are certain organs that have to be stimulated, that have to be brought into play. This is why you may be walking down the street and have a flash, and maybe it looks like somebody, there was light flashed at you, or you heard an unusual sound, or you turned quick, you thought you saw something. Many people do this because right here at the corner of the eye is where the optical nerve comes, right here. And when you start developing sight beyond the physical crystallization, which is a three-dimensional effect, you begin to look into the fourth dimension. And if you start developing that sight, don't turn to look, because the minute you do, you come back to the three-dimensional. Just look straight ahead and slightly look out of the corner of the eye, and that fourth dimensional will clear up, and you can see it. You can see beyond the physical form. Now, what we have to do is to stimulate two glands to start with. One is called the pituitary gland right here. Now, everybody you run into, at least when you get out in the public, they want to stimulate this gland because when they do, it opens an eye that comes right through about here, right here, called the third eye. And everybody wants to open the third eye. That's the worst thing you can do. You want to read somebody's mind. You want to be able to do kind of readings, look into a body and say, well, you got heart trouble, you got stopped up colon, blah, 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 blah. They really think they're really going to town when they do this. All they're doing is making an ego important. I'm a healer. I can read your physical body signs. I know, I've been there. I used to do it. I still do it a little bit, but not very much, only for my students. God, I could have people here by the thousands just running over me. I don't want them. There's plenty of people out there doing the healing. Let them do it. And I don't want you to do it. who are to become my disciples. Because if you open this door and come out through here, you'll never know the truth. All you do is play games with mind, called psychic. Psychic means mind. We want you to develop this and look inside. Roll those eyes in. Go inside. We want your third eye to open, yes, but not to the psychic world, but to the spiritual world, to the world from which you came, to find out what you are. Now we have another gland here called the pineal gland. These two glands, this is where the golden sand is, this is where the blue flow is. These two glands, when I show you how, you'll develop what is called an aura around each one. That is, because you do what I ask you to do, you will develop concentration in these two gland areas. When you do this they develop a light and sound. And if you keep on practicing, it'll begin to expand and expand and expand. When these two touch, you have the holy wedding. This is the true holy wedding. A beautiful golden ring will come. I remember years ago when that golden ring came. Oh, I wanted to be married to my God so bad. Through the golden ring, the divine bridegroom. Now when these two expand and touch, it sends a light down the spinal system to the base of the spine. Right here. You will notice that there are 2 points here that go in and then it forms a V. This is called the sacrum area. It is a very sacred area. It's tremendously sacred. And this is why you should take care of it. There's 2 points right here. And this is why Master Jesus kneeled the way he did in the Garden of Gethsemane. Because when you kneel and put your heels on these 2 points, it stimulates the positive and negative energy at the base of the spine and shoots it right up into the brain. It's a hard way to meditate, really. There's a lot easier ways, but this is the way Master Jesus did. He interfolded his fingers, and he crossed his thumbs in this manner, and laid it out like this and sat on his heels. He closed the circuitry to the sense world, stimulated the positive and negative energies, and pulled it through the center of his spine, what he called the straight and narrow path. That's one way to meditate. And I'll show you a lot easier way that you can accomplish the same thing. Now, if you want to try that, fine. Now, right here, at the base of the spine, when we get these two energies to come together, and that light goes shoom right to the base of the spine, there's a birth takes place. It's called in the East Kundalini. It is the true Christ consciousness of man. This is where Christ within you is born. It is the first movement of this divine flow. Jesus, the personality, Christ, the instrument who shows the way. We can all be Christ conscious. We can't all be Jesus. So let's forget about being Jesus. But the Christ, which means the oil that comes down through the body. And that's why too much sex is not good. This little gland right here, called colostrum, it drops oil. This little gland drops oil. It comes down through the spinal system and goes out through all the nerves. It's like electrical line that has installation on it. This oil is your installation to your nerves. When this oil has filled all the nerve sheaths, and you look like what is called a rose tree, that's what they call it. This means that along all the nerves of your body, when a person looks at you psychically, you have little drops of pink stuff moving along, called the rose tree. And that's why they say when you're in the pink of condition. It's true. That's why when you're in the pink of condition, your nerves have this oil, this little pink stuff going off all around your nerves. If it doesn't have, the nerves look like old dried up sticks. They'll be dark and brown and dingy looking. There won't be any energy flowing through it. Now when you have filled all the whole nervous system with this pink stuff, then it comes up and builds around here and overflows the brain. And this is what is meant in the scriptures when it says, thy cup is full and running over. This is the cup. And when it's full and running over, you will be Christed. That means that these two levels of energy will expand, touch, and send the force down, and the Christ at the base of the spine, or the energy force, or the Kundalini, or the serpent in the Garden of Eden, call it any name you want to, this thing will start to move. And you will climb up the spinal system of each one of these centers. And this is Jacob's ladder. That's what it really is. When you climb up that spine, consciously, you'll see angels, you'll see brothers of light, you'll see the whole bunch, the whole family, just like he did. Because at each one of these centers, you will see beyond the desire of the physical body, beyond the desire of sensuousness. You will go into the celestial and the terrestrial states of consciousness, and they're all there. And one of the most beautiful things about it, they all want to help you. Ask some of these young people who have listened to me, have come to retreats, and seen some of these things. So it's not all that just I alone is the only one who has done this. Many of my beloved disciples who have listened to me, who have practiced, they know what John's revelation is all about, because these were his initiations. And you must go through these initiations. I have had John's initiations. And each of you, as you go through these centers, you will have these initiations. Initiation means an awakening to another level of consciousness, alternate states of awareness. Now, as the Christ flows up, as you climb the ladder of the spinal system, open up the seals that John speaks about in Revelation, and meditate as we show you, these two auras come together, and when they have come together sufficiently, and the golden circle is there, and you go through the golden circle to a light that you see in the distance of this golden circle, you will come to the Isle of Real. This is the pyramid. And this is where Benjamin Franklin got his information and put it on our American dollar. When this eye opens up, then you can really begin to move into what we call the upper states of consciousness. Now, it doesn't have to open up in the beginning. You can feel God before you can see God. But really, seeing, feeling, and becoming is the pathway. And everybody wants to see it. It's the worst thing on the road. The most hazardous part of the trip is to see. To feel is to start becoming one with this divine part of yourself. As you go through, you come to, we get you into certain places. We don't stop in these areas. I don't have time to explain it. I will in time if you stick around. But we try to get you to this level. You can call it the Christ level, or you can call it the Buddha level. I don't care what you call it. You can call it, in the Bible, it's called the golden bow. And it tells you, don't break the golden bow. This is a golden light. And right above each of your heads, this light is there. And when we look, it looks about this tall, and it looks like a little golden man sitting in the position of a meditator. The first time I ever saw it, it scared me. And then as I became the free one, or the liberated one, which Buddha means liberation from the sense perception that holds you into this tomb. This is the real tomb. You died to come here, whether you know it or not. Wait till you kick this body and find out what you really are. But you can do it before that. You're in a tomb. This is the tomb. You're covered up. You get out of this, man, it's beautiful. You're in this, you come back to this, and my God, this thing is crowded. It's small. It's dense. You don't like it. You try to put on the brakes. You don't want to come back into it. But you have to go to school. You have to learn the laws of life. This is a beautiful state. It's divided in half. When you meditate, when we take you through the classwork, we want you to go first into the Christ or the Buddha state, whatever you want to call it, and ask for the great gift of the Christ or the great gift of the Buddha. What is it? Cleansing and purification. You want to clean out all the garbage that you got in yourself. You want to purify the mind in the divine flow that comes through that gives you life continually. It's what you want to do. And as soon as you get purified and clean enough, you can go into cosmic mind, which is right here, or you can go into the first cause and the movement of the form that comes from love, or you can go into this illumined light, which is like a light of 1,000 suns. First time you see it, it probably scare you because you think you're going to be destroyed. I've seen people die and head into the light, turn around and come back and hang on to an astral shell and hang on and hang on and hang on and hang on until they become so miserable they want to know what's happened. And then there are those who are the workers of those who are walkers of the sky, and they'll say, you must turn to the light and go back home. And as soon as they do it, the whole thing clears up. And I see I'm running out of time. There's never enough time to do this. Now, show you the position. You will find people telling you to sit with your feet flat on the floor and turn your palms upright. I'll tell you, you're a garbage pail when you do this. You better not do it unless you have absolute control of your mind. Cross your legs. Take the thumb and forefinger and close it. This is your resistance and this is your positive finger. This finger, if you look at pictures of Master Jesus, if they're drawn properly, this finger is the longest finger on the hand. See, I got a lot of ways to go before I can even think that I, in this lifetime, have reached such a state. We sit like this. This is the magic circle in the Bible if you want to study it. We put the palms downward on the knees and close the circuitry. If you're wise, wherever you meditate, whatever group you go to, you'll sit like this. Now, if you go to the theater, if you go to large groups, and you feel yourself getting sleepy and tired, you've got a sponge around you. Somebody's sponging on your energy. Cross your legs and put your thumb and forefinger together, or intertwine them like this. Don't leave them too far open like the Buddha position, because you have to have good willpower control. Close them up. Use Master Jesus' clothes. That's okay. Very good. The main thing is to close the circuitry of the body so that nobody can take your life force. Now, we sit with our spine fairly straight. If you go to some of the Eastern schools, they'll make you sit in rigid positions, and you'll go through a lot of misery. My teacher did. Boy, he hit me in the back many a time, make me straighten up. I find that the Western mind doesn't have to go through these strangest kinds of positions. The Western mind is advanced to the point to where if it wants to do something, it can do it. All it has to do is want to do it, and that's where the problem is. Getting the mind to want to do something. But I guarantee you what you want to do, you'll do. You just stop and think about it. What you want to do, you'll find a way to do it. Now, when we sit like this, we do two things. First, we want you to know about the life force. It comes in the top of the head right here. It's called the silver cord in the Bible. This is a doorway. You can see it pulsate in a little baby's head. That light that comes from Godhead that I'm showing you here is tied right here, comes down through the brain to the brainstem, and goes down through the spinal system and out through the whole nervous cerebral system. This keeps you alive. When that breaks, goodbye. Now, we ask you to concentrate on the top of the head at this point. This is a doorway. It's the chimney of Santa Claus. It's the open old sesame. It's the Brahman opening, which means the opening of God. It's called many, many, many names. It is the mountain of the Most High that Jesus spoke about when he went into the mountains for 40 days and 40 nights. He went to the mountain of the Most High. This is the highest point on your head. There's 40 rings around your head that give you certain capabilities. We have to learn how to become conscious. We have to learn how to use these things. You have a fantastic piece of equipment. Learn what makes it operate and how it works. It takes time. You can't learn it overnight. It takes a little time. in about 2 to 3 years with me, you'll begin to have some knowledge about it. About 10 to 12, maybe 15 years, you'll wake up. Took me 25 because I didn't have a teacher. Finally, my teacher come along and showed me some things that I was lacking. Woke up. All right? We take the consciousness here, we bring it down right to the point of will, right here. We direct the flow into the shoulders and down the arms and into the hands. I want you to feel it. I want your hands to tingle so that you know exactly that that flow is there. I don't want you to take my word for it. I want you to experience it. Then we leave the flow in our hands and go back to the top of the head and run it down through the spinal system. I want you to feel your spine come alive. I want you to feel this energy go out through the body. I want you to know firsthand from personal experience. The only way you can learn anything is by your own experience. You can take and read a book on swimming, you can listen to lectures on swimming, and somebody will still have to push you in the water. And if you swim, you learn. If you don't, you're gone. But you had to have the experience. And you have to have this experience. From the top of the head, into the willpower center, then to the neck, out each shoulder, and down each arm, and feel it go through your fingers. We do that 3 times. The third time, it comes through the center of the palm. We go back to the top of the head. We pick up the energy, and this time, bring it to the willpower center, and we send it into the brain. The reason we send it to the brain, because the brain is the main computer system of this body. Anything that happens has to go to the brain and register and come back. Now we take and run it down through the spinal system. Brainstem, into the spine, down the back. And when we get to the hips where that little V is, run off and down each leg, pick up the flow from your hands, push it on down through the feet. We do it 3 times. First, to get the flow going personally conscious awareness. Second time, we try to heal ourselves the best we can. And then the third time, we get ready for meditation. Now, when we meditate, this is just a beginning meditation technique. You'll find out if you go to our classes and you continue for a couple of years, you'll say, my God, what next? Well, there's always something next. We put the fourth finger right here on the bottom of the eyelids. We roll the eyes back, look inside the head. Place them right here, and we place the thumbs in the ears. And we listen to the sound. First, we listen to the sound. Each one of these centers has a sound. This is the gong, the tinkle bells, for whom the bells toll. Right there. Where is the trumpet? Right here. When you get to this center, you'll hear a trumpet. And I guarantee you, the walls of Jericho will come tumbling down. Darkness. It'll fall away. That's the most beautiful sounding trumpet you'll ever hear. There's no one can duplicate it with an instrument. But you will recognize it as a trumpet when it begins to toot its music. And darkness falls away. Most beautiful, most wonderful. This sounds like a storm. There is lightning. There is the roar. Tells you to take the kingdom by the storm, don't it? All right. You have to go through here. And when that thunder and lightning flash, you will go through. And you will begin to know what your kingdom is all about. Absolutely true. Take the kingdom by storm. But you got to know how. Now we listen to this sound. Whatever sound you hear, mockingbird, okay, listen to it. Night sounds, listen to it. If it's a bell, if you hear a bell chiming or tinkle bells, tinkle, 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 if you hear a high-pitched reed sound, they're all inside. It tells you in the Bible. And the sounds come and we know not from where they come. But you will enjoy listening to them. Now, after you have listened in, then we ask you to put your thumbs back together, put your hands on your knees, bring your consciousness forward in the head into light, and try to look inside and not outside. We do that 3 times. This is to develop these two glands so that they will touch. Forward into light is your pituitary. Back inside, which I didn't get much time to explain, is the pineal, the golden sand. When that golden sand quits vibrating, you're dead. The silver cord is released. Now, we do this 3 times, and on the 3rd time, we ask you to hold whatever light you have. If you don't have enough lights, you can use mine, because I will cover the whole room with this beautiful golden light. And anyone that you love or think that needs help, you speak their name and hold their image in this light. And if you think you personally need the greatest help, then you think of yourself and ask the divine Christ within you to grant you that which you have the greatest need of. It may be a little more willpower. It may be a healing. It may be a change of attitude. Let the God within you do it. Don't say, hey, God, I need $500. Don't think God is some kind of a bellhop to answer all your calls. Ask the divine self, Father, give me that of which I need, because I have come to this planet to fulfill that which you sent me here for. It isn't an accident that you come. It isn't an accident that you look like you do. You come to do what your God self wants done. And if you don't do it, and you probably won't believe me, but you'll be back to do it, and next time you'll have a handicap. Until you have such handicap, you will do it. That's the reason you see people born in all kinds of shapes and forms. The God within you wants certain things done. The growth of the soul, which Jesus talked about. Most important thing. Growth of your soul. Mine belongs to me and yours belongs to you. You have to do your work, I have to do mine. All I can do is give you knowledge upon which you can work with. I am teaching a science of consciousness and the use of this physical form in which you have birthed in. I'm teaching a science and how energy flows and how the mind works, and hopefully to teach you how to go beyond this field of mind where you're caught, so you can be free, just like Jesus taught. And his 12 disciples were those who were initiated, and they did this. And so can you. Time has come. Day has opened. We no longer are in a state of the necessity of belief. We're in a state of the necessity to know. And I assure you, when you know, you will not be afraid again. You will never be lonely again. And you will try to do the best you can in your environment with the talents that your divine being has given you. And you'll use them. And you'll learn how to use them rightly. You'll do it with a divine devotion of love to your God self. Let's meditate.